The following podcast is a deep, shallow dive production.
And you're going to love it.
Okay, let's go.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. April 23rd. And I do apologize for missing the episode yesterday, but I had very good reason. The book is out. We are live. And oh man, yesterday was like crazy hectic trying to just manage all the slight logistics. Just a lot of stuff. I'll tell you about it another time. But anyway, so my book, Deep Shallow Dive Into You, is available on Amazon. And I started off with launching it as a paperback, a hardcover, and then it's also on Kindle. And if you are a Kindle Unlimited person, which I think that's like $9.99 a month for Kindle Unlimited, and I guess it lets you read as much as you want. Man, I wish I was a better reader. I suck at reading. I really do. I'm a shit reader. I just don't read. I really don't. And that's pretty funny that I wrote a book and I don't really read. Maybe this will actually be the beginning of me starting to read more. But anyway, if you're Kindle Unlimited, I believe it's free. I believe the Kindle version is free. It's pretty interesting when you do the ebook version. You basically have the ability to go exclusive for Amazon, or exclusive with Amazon, which I did for 90 days. So the next 90 days, I'm exclusive with Amazon just on the Kindle ebook stuff. And it came with a bunch of perks. And so I thought, what the heck, I'll give it a try. It looks like Amazon owns about 80% of the e-reader business anyway. So I thought I'd see kind of what happens before they call it going wide and releasing it on Barnes & Noble and Target and all the other places that you can actually get a digital e-reader book. So for now, again, if you just go to Amazon and you search Deep Shallow Dive, I think the podcast comes up because you could listen to it on Audible and then Amazon Music, which obviously Amazon owns Amazon Music, but it actually owns Audible as well, if you didn't know that. But then if you scroll down, you should see the book. You should see basically, again, the paperback, the hardcover, the Kindle, and yeah, check it out. I would love for you to read it. I really would. And I am in the process of recording the audiobook. So I will hopefully here pretty soon have an Audible audiobook with yours truly doing the narration. This is funny, actually. All right, I'm going to be transparent about this. So this process of doing like an Audible audiobook, I mean, it's a beast of a process. Like I literally am going to have to sit and record me reading the book. And it's not as easy as you think because I've tried to do it. It's definitely not. And so over the weekend, I spent several hours trying to clone. I cloned my voice on digital on 11 Labs, which I think I've played that for you guys before. But I really tried to like fine tune it. Like I watched like a bunch of YouTube videos on it. I watched the 11 Labs tutorial on it because I thought, okay, if it really does a good job of cloning my voice to where I can't even tell it's not me, then holy mackerel. I mean, that's going to save me like 30 hours of work probably. And so I'll load up chapter by chapter. It's going to cost a bunch of money. It would have cost me, I think it would have cost like $600 to basically buy enough character credits on 11 Labs to basically read the entire book. But honestly, I mean, man, again, if it were able to do it perfectly, that would be worth saving 30 hours of recording time. But it just wasn't. It wasn't. I did a bunch and it would get like 80% of the paragraph correct. And then it would have a weird reflection in the tone or weird something, or it would pronounce a word wrong. And I was like, this is stupid. This is not going to work. So anyway, trial and error, right? Trial and error. So I am going to record the audiobook myself and kind of do that. I really prefer doing it that way. was more just the beast of a process. But anyway, that is what it is. So bro wrote a book. He did. Bro wrote a book. So anyway, if you do end up reading it, I would love to get your thoughts. I would love to hear your honest opinion on it. And, the way I look at it is, regardless of if it sells one copy or if it sells 1,000,000 copies, I seriously had such an incredible personal growth journey going through not only the process of writing it. I mean, it was very cathartic. It really was. And I'm not going to ruin much, but man, I'm pretty raw in this thing. I really am, like, sometimes rawer than I even felt comfortable with, but you know what? It is what it is. And at the end of the day, man, I say that phrase a lot. I really hope that if you do end up taking the time to read it or listen to it when it comes out on Audible or whatever, hopefully it triggers something. You know what I mean? Because that's what I think all this stuff is about, whether it's my book or someone else's book or this podcast or someone else's podcast or whatever. I mean, you're never going to like, soak in and change your life because of everything someone says. It's going to be that one small thing, it's going to be that one small thing that you hear somewhere or that you see somewhere. And that one small little ripple is going to cause huge waves in your life. And that's the way it's always been with me. For a long time, I really resonated with that Steve Jobs speech, which I think I've played segments of that in various episodes, where he was giving the 2006 commencement address at Stanford. And I mean, there were so many things in that speech that were excellent. He talked about connecting the dots, and he talked about how you can't go back in the past. You can only go forward in the future. So you have to try and connect the dots from the past in order to, sort of see your future, which I loved all that. But I really loved the ending that he gave, where he said, I want this one thing for you all, and that is stay hungry, stay foolish. I mean, I loved that. Stay hungry, stay foolish. And if you haven't listened to that speech, maybe I'll try to play it in parts over the next few days or something. I don't think I'm allowed to play the entire 13-minute thing at once, or else they'll nail me for copyright infringement or something. But I think I can play it in pieces, parts. So I'll see if I can do that. If not, I'll put links to where you can listen to it. But, for seriously, probably 10 years, that was my mantra. Stay hungry, stay foolish. I always wanted to stay hungry, and I always wanted to stay foolish. And I really did that. And that really resonated with me with a lot of different, business related things or even personal related things. And then I kind of moved on from that. I really went to embracing my why, which I think a lot of people have done. That comes from an author and inspirational speaker, Simon Sinek. And gosh, I don't even remember when he said that, but I know I've talked to my man Len Spacek about this, but embracing your why, and that was a powerful, God, that guy put out a book and it didn't really resonate. And then all of a sudden I think he gave a speech somewhere that he talked about how you have to really what is your why? Why are you doing this? Why are you going after this career? Why are you, going after this job? Why are you doing what it is you're doing? What is your why? And I mean, I loved that. I think a lot of people love that. I think millions of people love that. He really put himself on the map with that. But it's a great question. It really is. It's a great question. And it's something that, it's not like you have to think about it every day, but you should be thinking about it. You should be thinking about, like, is what you're doing making you happy? Trust me, I fully understand. Sometimes in life, you have to do what you have to do. But again, I do think that we are now at a stage and age for most of the folks listening to this where, you really have to grab life by the what and just go for what you want to do. Now, you don't have to go all in right away and leave everything and take a tremendous amount of risk, but you can embrace your passions and make them part of your daily existence. And that's really, for the most part, I mean, if there was one core theme in Deep Shallow Dive Into You, it kind of is that, to where it really is about figuring out how to have a more authentic relationship with yourself. And that is something I honestly try to do every day. I really do. I try to be authentic with myself, but it's hard. It's hard. It's a journey. It really is a journey. Man, there's so many things that come off cliche, but God, when you really break it down, they're so true. I mean, they're so true. The fact that you've got to relish the process. I mean, man, you really do. You really have to. It is about the process. It honestly is, because the growth you experience when when you put yourself and your mind and your energy and your emotions, and when you're in it, when you put yourself in it and you're all in, I don't know, it just makes you feel alive. It really does. It makes you feel alive. And I remember various nights in my entrepreneurial career where, I don't know, I accomplished something. I remember one in particular. It was so funny, and probably shouldn't put this on record, but what the heck. It was after I had designed some creative for this group dating website called Team Dating. Many of you might remember it. Anyway, unfortunately, had some success with it, but overall, not as much as it should. I think the idea was a little bit before its time. But regardless, I remember one night finishing something, and the next day we were filming something for the Today Show. We actually got on NBC's The Today Show, and I shouldn't probably admit this, but I'm going to. I used to smoke cigarettes, and I never really was a smoker. I wasn't, but I smoked socially, and then I might have had 2 or 3 a day for a couple years, something like that. Man, I can't even believe I used to do that, and I can't even believe I just admitted that, but whatever. And I remember that night, it was 2:00 in the morning, and holy mackerel, I finished what I needed to get done for that next day, and I remember smoking a cigarette on my patio, and I was just it was the greatest cigarette in the history of the world, I think, because I just felt so alive, like I really did. It was just such a powerful feeling, because it was we had come up with this idea. I'm not even kidding. The team dating idea, we came up with it drunk one night, which is hilarious. Actually, not drunk that night. The stuff that happened that night caused us to come up with the idea the next day. It was me, my buddy Kip, and another friend, Gary Langham, in Long Beach, eating pancakes in the morning. That is hilarious. But the culmination of, just a ridiculous amount of hard work for a long time. We were getting on the Today Show, and I was up till 2:00 in the morning working on the presentation that needed to be, turned in at 8 a.m. And it just felt awesome. It really did. It felt awesome. And so that, that feeling and that gratification that, you believe in something, you believe in something and you're passionate about something. And so anyway, if you do end up reading the book or listening to it or whatever, like that's all, or quite frankly, this podcast for that matter, like if one episode on this podcast out of the hundreds of minutes of nonsense that I talk about, if there's like 45 seconds one day that triggers something in you and that causes you to do XYZ, that's what it's all about. That is really, really what it's all about. And fundamentally, I think that, I was actually, it's funny, over the weekend, I was like really giving a lot of thought to obviously the continued direction of this thing and what I want to, continue to talk about. And I do want to, I really do want to try and break down the things that are going on in this world because, I do think I've got a good lens on it. I really do. I think I've got a good lens on it and I've got a good handle on it. And again, it's not about being negative or being a naysayer or being a pessimist or being anything. It's about being a realist. And it's about really thinking of the fact that, unfortunately, there's bad people in this world. And it's funny, I'll bring it back to the Made in America OJ thing, which I think I've got one episode left. What is fascinating to me about that entire situation now that we are, oh my gosh, how many years removed? What did we say? It was 2004. We're 20 years removed from that situation. And so, again, this is 20 years ago where we didn't have all this technology. I don't even think podcasts existed in 2004. Yeah, I don't think they did. But there's no podcasts. The internet is just really starting to take shape. Facebook wasn't even on the map yet. It maybe was just permeating in Mark Zuckerberg's lizard brain. And none of the stuff and none of the way life is today, technology wise, and really, like, think about it. None of us had cell phones in 2004. Okay. None of us had GPS on our cars in 2004. We didn't have the flat screen TVs that we have. We weren't using the internet the way that we are. We weren't ordering food on Instacart or Grubhub or DoorDash. We weren't using Ubers. We were using taxis. So really, everything about life in 2004 was different than it is now. But you know what was the same? People had the ability to lie, and they had the ability to cheat, and they had the ability to murder somebody, okay? And so, like, if you think about the OJ situation, in the past 20 years, there has never one time been, oh, big news, breaking news, new clues reveal that it was the Domino's delivery guy who tried to rape Nicole Brown Simpson, and Ron Goldman came to rescue, and it ended up being a double murder by that dude. That's not what happened. I don't want to get sued by Domino's. But, nobody, there has not been one additional potential person brought forward who could have done that double murder. Think about that. Like, nobody's brought forward because OJ did it. He's the one who did it. And what I want to stress about that is all his lawyers, they knew it, but they still defended him. Now, granted, that's their job. I get that. But they all knew that. And quite frankly, like, it just shows you that humanity, even though we've progressed technology-wise and had so many advancements, fundamentally what human beings are capable of now is the same thing they were capable of on the bad side in 2004 and probably 1994 and probably 1948. And one of the things that was super interesting was there was a scene where they took the jury to Rockingham. Rockingham was O.J. Street in Beverly Hills. And so they took the jury there to see the house, right? To see OJ's house. And so prior to them getting to the house, OJ's defense team, this is crazy if you think about it. They, throughout the entire house, literally it was like a museum to OJ. There were only pictures of OJ, giant things of OJ. There was no like Nicole. Nicole wasn't in. And granted, this was their. Remember, this was not granted. Remember, this was the house they lived in together. So there weren't pictures of Nicole and the kids. It wasn't like a family vibe. It was like a shrine to OJ vibe, right? And then the pictures that were there, they said they were all pictures of OJ with like, you know, the CEO of Hertz, who's like an old white guy, and this old white guy, and that old white lady. And like, it really painted a picture of OJ living La Vida White Loca and, you know, being in that type of environment, right? So the defense team knew, and this is like Shapiro, Johnny Cochran, Robert Kardashian, all those guys. So they knew that wouldn't resonate with the black jury, right? The black members on the jury, like if they saw a bunch of pictures with OJ with all these white people, they're going to be like, wait a minute, like, okay, that's not what we thought OJ should be taking pictures with and hanging all over his house. So they literally went through the entire house and replaced all the photographs of him with white people with photographs of him with black people. Like, that's insane. How crazy and manipulative and quite frankly, how deceptive is that? So they swapped out all those pictures, and it just goes to show you, you know, into whether it was 2004 or 2024, what people are capable of. And especially the intelligent people that are making the decisions. In this case, they're the lawyers. In our current situation, we're talking about, you know, let's say the politicians, what they're capable of and the deception that they're able to do. So if it's pretty crazy if you think about what happened if they had not cheated like that. That could have given the jury an entirely different vibe, or at least many members of the jury who sided with OJ. A lot of it was out of color. And we're going to talk about that in another issue because, man, so many interesting things with this. But let's say they got the vibe coming out of going to OJ's house that, oh, man, okay, maybe OJ's not who we thought he was. That could have given an entirely different judgment for that case. So anyway, my point is the defense team for OJ, they were deceptive and they completely misled the jury to think that OJ's lifestyle was a certain way, and it was the way that they wanted to portray it to them. So that to me reinforces honestly why I absolutely want to, you know, keep bringing things to light, keep having discussions, keep looking at stuff from every angle, because if anything, it's getting worse now. If anything, what people are capable of and what they're capable of leveraging using AI, using all this fake stuff, using 11 Labs, using whatever, if anything, it's worse now. So anyway, here's my commitment moving forward. We are going to absolutely keep talking about everything and anything. We're going to keep calling a spade a spade. We're going to keep our eyes open. And you know what? We're going to have an authentic relationship with ourselves. And that's it. That's all we can do right now. We can have an authentic relationship with ourselves, and we can, you know, I'm going to really try to bring in these pillars of Deep Shallow Dive, which the book really centers on a lot more: self-awareness, authenticity, resilience, and empathy. Those four, man, they're seriously four pillars: self-awareness, resilience, authenticity, and empathy, you can apply those things to everything. You really can. And they help looking at things when you apply those pillars. So I'm going to start applying those pillars to certain things. I'm also going to get back to doing something I did at the beginning of the podcast where when I talked about news stories, I try to find what the story is being told from the right, from the left, and from the center. So you can see the three differing views of the same news story. So I really need to bring that back because I think that was a really eye-opening, enlightening segment. So anyway, oh man, highly charged Ray D in this episode, but I'm going to leave with saying thank you for everybody support. Thank you for the support for the podcast. If you decide to get the book, I appreciate that. And regardless, we are going to call a spade a spade. All right, everybody. Talk to you soon.
The ending was terrific.
This episode was brought to you by the new book, Deep Shallow Dive into You, available now on Amazon in hardcover, paperback, as well as via Kindle. Pick up your copy today of Deep Shallow Dive into You, a guide to having a more authentic relationship with yourself. Turns out it is indeed true. Bro wrote a book.